breaking barriers and bridging the gaps between patients and doctors. Welcome to Brainstorming with the Docs and your co-hosts, Dr. Glenn Harrison and Dr. Kolby Condos.
All right, everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Brainstorming with the Docs. I'm Dr. Kolby Condos, my co-host, as always, Dr. Glenn Harrison. How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing good, Dr. Kolby. How about you this morning? Oh, you're older now. You're older. Oh my goodness. You're still never
every
caught
day
up
you're
to
a
me.
year older, or every day you're older, man. What's the saying? You're only as young as you'll ever be right now.
That's true. It's frightening.
It is frightening,
yeah,
right?
It's frightening.
Every day I wake up and I'm just a day older. You know?
Maybe you need to be coached. Maybe you need to be coached through this birthday blues.
Yeah. I think that like before you turn in your teens and 20s, it's like your birthday's something to be exciting for. And I'm just like, oh, this is one year older here.
Another lap around the sun, right?
Yeah.
That's okay.
My brothers were texting me and I was like, hey, I'm just halfway to I'm halfway to 72 now, so it's fine. So all right, so today we're talking about something that, as we're brainstorming ideas and topics and stuff like that, it's something that we did not necessarily foresee ourselves doing in our
we didn't
practice.
know it and we didn't know it when we went into practice either.
No, at all. It's not something that if you would have asked me, what is the number one thing that you do in your office? Like I would have not told you this,
Right.
So today we're talking about why your functional medicine provider or your doctor in general, needs to not only be your doctor, your confidant, but also your like coach.
That's right.
So if this is your first time watching or listening to the podcast, please hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications because we're going to continue to roll out content like this every other week. And hopefully we roll out something that's applicable to you. So let's talk about it. Why is it important for your doctor provider to be your cheerleader, your coach, all of it?
Well, I think the word doctor is fix me, right? It really doesn't mean that. It means teacher, but modern day doctors are all about fix me. Doctor, fix me, fix me, fix me. And I don't think anybody can fix anybody other than a surgeon, maybe. Staple and stitch and fuse things back together. But when it comes to these, people need to know these kinds of disorders that we talk about, chronic illness. People don't only need to know what's on a lab panel. They need to know how can they translate what's in the lab panel to direction of what needs to be done. And then once they know what needs to be done, that's still not enough. They need that guidance, that mentor, that coach, a little bit of cheering, but navigation to be able to achieve and execute the lifestyle pieces needed to get to the goal versus just do this. And then that's it. And I think some people need more coaching than others, but I think everybody needs some coaching.
I would agree with that. I like to call it like diagnosis audiosis, right? Hey, here's what's here's what's wrong with you. See you later.
That's right.
That is not.
And who gets better with that? Who gets better with that?
I mean, I think I've been guilty of that in the past as well. Where I'm like, hey, this is what's wrong. It's going to be, and in our minds, like we deal with this stuff all the time. In our minds, we're like, okay, this is going to be pretty straightforward. We're just going to do this, and then they're like, what? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, and how many times have you seen patients come into your office and they have XYZ problem, and they say, and you ask them, well, what did your doctor recommend? And they're like, well, they said I need to lose some weight.
And you're like,
okay,
great. How?
Great. How?
And did they
for you?
Did they recommend a health exercise regimen or some dietary restrictions or changes? No, just told me to lose weight.
In fact, I had that today, actually, just a couple hours ago. There was, what was the problem there? There was, high hemoglobin A1C, pre-diabetic, right on the borderline of diabetics, was pretty high. And I asked, well, what did your doctor tell you? Said, well, I just need to lose some weight. That's it. That's all. You're a borderline diabetic and just lose weight. Well, how great is the outcome going to be in that patient?
Probably not very good unless they are a very highly motivated individual that's going to take some self accountability and just figure it out. And even then, that's not necessarily the quickest or most efficient way of doing it.
yeah, and how can this individual be confident with the path that they personally decide
Yeah,
to
they
work on
decided
their
it.
weight? Yeah, that
Yeah.
they decide, not the supposed to be the expert. So anyway, that is why I think it's important. People need to know more than what to do. They need to know how to do it and why to do it.
I
The
would agree with
coaching has
that.
to, yeah, the coaching has to come with a component of education, I believe. Anyway.
Yep, I would agree with that. So when I look at the coaching, why that aspect of care is so important is when we were outlining this, I was like, okay, you got to be empathetic, right? But also realistic. And I think that occasionally maybe I'm maybe under empathetic. I don't know. But you have to be realistic. Um, I think one of the lines I use a lot of the times with patients is I go, okay, here the good news is I was like, good bad news, right? The bad news is you're the problem. But the good news is you're also the solution, right?
That's right.
So
That's right.
you're the reason you got here, but you're going to be the reason that we get out of here too. And I'm going to hold your hand through every step of the journey and being realistic. Like it's not going to be a linear upward trend. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get better. You're going to get a little worse. We're going to reevaluate. We're going to get better. We're going to get a little worse. We might plateau for a while. We're going to reevaluate. We're going to get some more labs. We're going to get some more current data. And then we're going to implement some new changes and then we're going to get better. It's never linear.
That's exactly right. And there's where that guide comes in, and I don't know. We could call functional medicine or your doctor being a guide, being a coach, they have to be more than a diagnostician.
Yes.
When it comes to it. Now, maybe they don't need to be more than a diagnostician if they're just going to hand a pill bottle across the counter with zero active, zero participation in your own care.
Yes.
Maybe
Yep.
they don't. They just need the diagnosis, and here's the pill bottle. And well, imagine someone has a bacterial infection. Well, here's your antibiotics. Take your antibiotics. That's all you need to do. There's
Right.
no thought around it, unless there's a bizarre symptom. Call me, and we follow up on it.
Right.
But when we have these kinds of chronic cases, it's and I think I really think coaching is the most uh, underestimated and underutilized tool for people to achieve their goals. I'm definitely I've definitely violated that or didn't comply with that model as well. I've underestimated it because if you have the beautiful thing about a great coach is they're not only going to, well, in our world we're still telling people kind of what they need to do, but a lot of coaches, they don't really tell people what they need to do. They tell people where they need to get.
Yes.
And they say, okay, here's different paths that we can run with it. Any of these appealing to you? Different paths to get to the goal that's desired.
Right.
And then they say, well, kind of this and maybe kind of that, and but not so much of this. Okay, well, let's formulate the strategy based off your decisions of the paths
Yeah,
you
it's more
select.
involved, right? You're more involved in your care.
Yeah,
And then
because otherwise there's so much resistance to say, okay, you got to do this. You're just gonna eat this. You're just gonna take this. And I know we do that. I know sometimes there's only one path to get to the goal. But anytime that and I've got better with this over the years, when there's a crossroads and they're like, okay, we've got a branch in the road. Can go right or we can go left, but it's going to circle around. We expect it to get at the same goal. When I see that option, it makes life so much easier for the person I'm working with, the patient I'm working with, because I say which way is better for you.
yep, which is going to be the easiest for you to implement.
Yeah, and they're like, wow, and sometimes I get surprised. I think the path that they took would have been way more resistance, but
Not
then
for
it's
them,
theirs.
right?
Then it's theirs. They're making it their own, and then that's why you work as a team.
Well,
So
and I think that like being someone who's really involved in the care, like is in a coaching capacity or whatever too. When you give them options, I always like to say, like, okay, I'm going to give you 3 things to do. I think that these 7 are going to be the most beneficial. Which 3 would you like to do?
mhm.
And they go, I'll do all 7. No, you won't.
That's right.
Done that before. Like, you're not going to do all 7. Pick 3.
Yeah, sometimes coaching is having a
Realistic expectations.
establishing a realistic expectation with realistic parameters based off the experience that they've had in that situation. Saying, okay, this patient A, where with presentation A, is never going to be able to do X, Y, Z based off my
But they
experience.
might be able to do X.
They might be able to do X. So let's establish those goals,
Yep.
and then let's find the paths for that goal, explain the path, explain the why of the path. The more we're talking about this, we just see how it gets so much more elaborate and much more comprehensive, the dialogue and the communication versus here's this, I don't know, here's
This
this
is what you need to do.
supplement.
See you
Yeah,
later.
here's the supplement. This is yours. And this is what you're going to do.
Take it as it says on the bottle. See you later, Dave.
Yeah, we're
I
done.
completely agree.
We're done.
And I actually I think that a lot of my patients get the most, and this is the importance of coaching too. And we've talked about this in previous podcasts, where like I will schedule people for like more regular visits at the beginning of programs or whatever, at the beginning of treatment, where I'm like, here's what we're gonna do. Like, you have any questions, comments, concerns? I'm gonna see you once a week for the first 3 weeks, because then you know that you have like uninterrupted access to me. I'm not flying off the cuff. Like, you have my undivided attention. What can we do to make this thing successful? And I think that a lot of times people just knowing that they have that support like in place, even if it's like a half hour once a week for the first 3 weeks.
They're not left hanging.
Yeah.
Right. They're not left hanging. There's something established on the calendar and the schedule when they're going to have a meetup again and a follow up. And they feel like they're just not floating around in the world randomly,
trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Even if they have a plan, but there has to be the next step to the plan.
Right. Or, I mean, I'm sure you've done this before too, because a lot of times, like when I outline this stuff, I will have a schedule that I make, right?
Yeah.
You're going to eat at this time. You're going to eat these foods at this time. You're going to take these supplements in this dose at this time. You're going to work out at this time, So it's like really a bunch of different layers. And it might seem very easy and seamless to us, but that's because we do it all day, every day. Right.
That's right.
So it also like provides a little bit of peace of mind. Okay. Like, I don't have it all figured out, but on Thursday, I'm going to see, Dr. Glenn, so we can go over this stuff. I'm going to implement what I can, at least what I think he wants me to do. And then we're going to touch base on Thursday, and we're going to verify that I'm doing it correctly.
That's right. If there's a committed timeline of a follow-up versus, oh yeah, I'll call me in about 2 weeks, it's not going to be well. No. There's like, yes, 2 weeks on this day at this time, we're scheduling for our follow-up. Okay. By this time, we want X, Y, and Z. So mini goals.
Yep. And then they'll come in and they're like, hey, I did exactly what you said.
Yeah. And then you can build on that and take the next step and so on and so forth. Anyway, I think we kind of beat this up quite a bit. So if people are listening, what's the takeaway from this? If they're looking for, conventional medicine is pretty hard to get any kind of coaching. So I think we could probably throw that out the window, but because they just don't have the time for it. But any kind of provider, especially in the world of integrative medicine, and they're working with chronic illness like functional medicine, make sure when you're hunting for these providers, make sure that there's a component of coaching and guidance involved in it, because you could go through all the lab work, you could go through all the diagnostics, you could do all the case workup, but if there isn't that hand holding for a little while, your success is going to go down by 50 to 80%. I would say that for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I also would like to point out that if you are looking for a health coach, right, make sure that it's someone accredited, right?
Yeah.
That's something we didn't talk about. Not that they're not valid either, but like there's a lot of people out there who are like quote unquote health coaches or like health experts that are not. Well, so just do your vetting,
Yeah, they might be a coach, but they might not have a bunch of background or credentials in the world of health. Well, yeah. What do you use them as a guide, as a coach, but they should also have some understanding of what they're guiding to.
Yep. Right? So I've had patients that have done this with like the online coaching stuff, and it can go off in the weeds pretty quick. So I would always recommend people to like make sure that who they're working with is a trusted source. I think so. Do your homework as much as you can. And then there's the other side of the spectrum. I've had patients from amazing, brilliant doctors, brilliant clinicians in my area here. And I'm like, I kind of talk to the patient and I get this paperwork from their past medical records, and they worked with Dr. So-and-so I know. And these are brilliant geniuses, really. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this person's case is so crazy that, there's not a chance to improve them farther than what they already come.
But then that's not what I find. I find that those individual clinics, they didn't have any component of guidance. They didn't have any coaching component to their care. And these patients had great advice, but no way to implement it, no way to
Yep.
execute it, no hand holding. And they were floating off in the never land with a bunch of
Yep.
labs, with a bunch of problems and a bunch of supplements and a bunch of labels. And then they're looking for help. And then we're able to help them. It's crazy.
Yep. And all it took is a little bit of, and you might not even have done anything different other than, hey, we're going to meet once a week and make sure you don't have any problems.
That's basically it. Let's execute what was already implemented or what was already advised. Let's find ways to execute it and put it in place and make it real, make it yours, modify it in the way that you need to embed it in your life. And that's basically what some of those cases were. So you can, I guess, to cap off, you can have providers that are geniuses in clinical, but no way to implement and assist with the implementation of the efforts they're laying out. Or you can go on the other end of the spectrum, like you were saying, Dr. Kolby, where there's a health coach, but they don't have any clinical understanding about health. So it could go both ways. So you kind of got to try to find some middle ground there. It's not easy. It's not easy.
No, it's not. But do your best. Don't quit.
Yeah, do your best. But anyway,
yes.
So hopefully this helped a little bit to to provide validity or to establish importance behind this guidance, because this isn't a pill. This isn't a pill to fix people. I think that's
absolutely not. Well, and if you guys would like to get a hold of us, because I mean, we can't handhold everybody or guide everybody, but we will do our best to point you in the right direction at least. Mm-hmm. You can get a hold of us at info@brainstormingwiththedocs.com. Our websites are www.northlakescheropractic.com or www.drgharrison.com. You can reach out to us on Facebook, Instagram. Mm-hmm. Dr. Glenn's getting super into social media.
Slowly.
Or if you have topic ideas you'd like us to break down or something of that nature, feel free to reach out to us. We will provide some links down below to some of the research, access to the other podcasts, resources, or supplement store, stuff like that. And if you guys have any questions, please reach out to us. So till next time, buddy.
All right. Well, that was a good one. I look forward to the next one.